So you've been involved in a Virginia car accident. As a result, you've lost wages, you've lost income, and you're trying to figure out whether or not you can be reimbursed because of that crash. Watch this video and figure out what we think. Hey folks, James Abrenio coming to you from Abrenio Law, your Northern Virginia personal injury and criminal defense law firm. So when it comes to Virginia car accident cases, lost wages are absolutely an element of damages that you're able to claim through the accident case. Now, that being said, an insurance company in a court is not simply just going to accept that you lost wages as a result of your crash. So there's some things that you should be thinking about when considering how to establish, how to prove your lost wages related to the case. So the first thing you need to think about is causation. What that really means is, can you establish or prove that you lost wages due to the accident? It was caused by the accident itself and not some other reason. So a perfect example, let's say that you work from home, you're a software engineer, and as a result of the crash, you fractured your ankle, and now you're claiming that because your ankle was bothering you for 6 months or a year, that you want an entire year of lost wages. And it turns out that by working from home for a vast majority of that time, of course, excluding surgery and that kind of recovery, you were able to work from home. You could have worked from home, but you chose not to. Now, in that instance, an insurance company is not going to award you a full year of lost wages because the value of your lost wages wasn't actually caused by the accident. You essentially have what we call in Virginia a duty to mitigate your damages. You don't just get to ride the wave and take advantage of the circumstances. You have to establish a credible claim. Now, that being said, let's say that same injury, you fractured your ankle, but you're a FedEx worker and the vast majority of your job is being up on your feet, driving vehicles around and trucks around and physically delivering packages. Well, that's a very different story. Because of the physical nature of your injury and the physical nature of your job, causation there is a much stronger link. Now, there's going to be other things that you're going to want to be considering when making your lost wage claim and causation. And another part is, what kind of job do you have? What kind of lost wages do you have? What kind of income do you have? What I'll tell you is, for a salaried employee, somebody that works 9 to 5, and let's say they get $25 or $30 an hour, and as a result of the accident, they miss 6 weeks of work. Well, that's pretty much simple math to establish the actual numbers of lost wages. You just do the math. Now, for someone like me that runs their own business, or let's say you're a real estate agent or salesman and you get paid commission, establishing a lost wage can be more difficult because our incomes dip and dive, and some months you do very well, some months you don't do very well, and everything in between. So establishing the actual math of lost wages can be difficult. Now, what I will tell people is, particularly when it comes to self-employed individuals or people that work on commission, um, the best way to prove the case is thinking about your circumstances logically. What do you think the best way to establish your prior income will be, so you can establish and extrapolate that lost wage going forward? So think about prior tax returns. I usually like to see 3 years or so to establish what your prior years of income were before the accident, W-2s, pay stubs, other things that are going to demonstrate that you had every reason to believe that you were going to make the same amount of money going forward. And when it comes to W-2s, pay stubs, you also, even for the salary employee, these are going to be documents that you're going to want to establish and corroborate your lost wage claim. Because remember, and I can't emphasize this enough, an insurance company or defense attorney, a court, or a jury is not just going to take your word for it. You have to have documentation establishing your lost wage. Now, the other side of it is the human aspect. If you work at a location with other people, hopefully there will be people there that can testify on your behalf to corroborate not only your actual lost earnings, but prior to the accident, establish that you were a good worker, that you were a consistent worker, that you had every reason to believe that you were going to keep working but for the accident. And again, tying in that causation, the reason you ended up not working was because the accident injury. So managers, employers, coworkers, those are the best for salaried employees. They can testify to your work ethic, to your character, but also the technical numbers. for you self-employed people or working on commission, coworkers, employees can help out. Really just be thinking about how do you establish the hard numbers when it comes to your lost wages. Now, another thing to think about is the larger your lost wage claim, the more likely it is that the insurance company, that a defense attorney, that a judge or a jury is going to be questioning the validity of your lost wages. It's not a bad thing. Just think about it. If you're claiming $100,000 in lost wages due to a car crash, that's going to be a lot different, going to be looked a lot more critically than if you're claiming $500 or $5,000. And this makes common sense. People don't just give away money for free, and this is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just you have to make sure that you have your ducks in a row. Now, at Abrenio Law, we typically work with people that have been catastrophically injured. So we're talking about broken bones, surgeries, sometimes life-changing events, and permanent injuries. And when we're talking about that, I always tell people, look, as the attorney, of course, my job is to help make sure that we get the evidence in at trial and we're able to establish that we'd be able to do that to an insurance company. But that being said, I can only work with the evidence that's given to me. So if you're my client or if you're looking to work with an attorney, you're going to want to make sure that you're helping the attorney do their job. Make sure that they're asking for prior tax returns. If they're asking for prior lost wage stubs and things like that, you don't just expect them to be able to do their work without the materials. Now, another quick point I'll make, a lot of people ask me, well, James, why do they get to have my tax returns? It has a lot of information on there that's not relevant to them. And what I will say to that is prior tax returns will establish, again, what you've claimed in the past to make sure that you can corroborate those things. So unfortunately, if you're involved in a car accident case, there's going to be documents that you have to prove that are intimate, that are private. But that's, if we ever had to litigate those issues, a judge is likely going to grant that information. There's no real legal reason, unless you have something specific about your case that warrants protecting. So, for instance, let's say you work in a high security clearance job and there's information that needs to be protected. But generally speaking, the defense is going to have a right to discover the information about your case, the claims that you're making. And again, they're not just going to take your word for it. So again, lost wages is absolutely a claimable damage, but you've got to make sure that you're helping your attorney do their job. You're also helping the court, the judge, the jury, the insurance company understand how you're evaluating your lost wage claims. That maximizes the likelihood that you'll actually be valued for those lost wages. So hopefully this video is useful. Take a chance to look at our car accident page at abreniolaw.com, where we've answered a bunch of other questions. Hope this is useful. Until then, take care.